In 2016, a Japanese cell biologist named Yoshinori Ohsumi received the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine for discovering a process that had been occurring inside every fasting Muslim's body during Ramadan for 14 centuries. He called it autophagy, derived from the Greek words for self and eating, and what he found would not only reshape cellular biology. It would raise a question that has no comfortable answer for a secular worldview. How did a 7th century revelation functionally describe a biological mechanism that science would not discover until the 21st century? Autophagy is the body's internal recycling system. When food stops arriving, cells stop waiting for external fuel and begin dismantling their own damaged components. Broken proteins, dysfunctional mitochondria, the cellular debris that accumulates over years of eating around the clock. Ohsumi's research, published across the 1990s and recognized with the Nobel in 2016, showed that this process does not simply keep cells alive during famine. It actively repairs them. The cell emerges from autophagy more efficient, more resilient, and measurably younger at the molecular level than before. Without periodic fasting, the debris accumulates. Researchers studying disrupted autophagy have linked it to Alzheimer's disease, type 2 diabetes, and certain cancers. The body, it turns out, was never designed to eat without pause. The Prophet Muhammad letter FDFA knew this, not in the language of cellular biology, but in the lived wisdom of a man whose every habit has since been examined and re-examined by researchers looking for a pattern. He fasted every Monday and Thursday. He fasted the 3 middle days of each lunar month, known as the white days. He broke his fast with an odd number of dates before the Fajr prayer and again at Maghrib. He described the stomach as a vessel that should be 1/3 food, 1/3 water, and 1/3 air. 14 centuries later, gastroenterologists studying gut motility pressure measurements describe exactly this proportion as optimal for digestive function. Enough space in the gastric cavity to allow the muscles to contract effectively without distension. But autophagy is only the beginning. In 2019, Dr. Mark Mattson at the National Institute on Aging in Baltimore, together with Dr. Rafael de Cabo, published a landmark review in the New England Journal of Medicine that synthesized decades of research on intermittent fasting. Mattson found that fasting triggers a metabolic switch. The body shifts from glucose metabolism to ketone metabolism, and that this switch produces measurable effects on the brain. Neurons become more stress-resistant. The production of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, known as BDNF, increases significantly. BDNF is a protein that functions essentially as fertilizer for the brain. It promotes the growth of new neural connections, strengthens existing ones, and has been shown to protect against neurodegenerative disease. Fasting, in other words, makes the brain physically more capable of learning, remembering, and adapting. Consider what this means for Ramadan. For 30 consecutive days, Muslims around the world fast from before sunrise to after sunset. No food, no water. They wake before dawn for sahur. They pray 5 times through the day. They gather at night for tarawih prayers that can last an hour or more. The entire month is a synchronized fast, a communal recalibration. And during that month, Precisely as Mattson's research predicts, the brain is operating in a state of heightened neuroplasticity. The month that demands the most intense spiritual focus from a Muslim happens to be the month when the brain is biologically most capable of forming and strengthening habits. The timing is not incidental. In the Quran, Allah letter FDFB describes fasting in Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 183, using the word kutiba, written for you, decreed, the same word used for something certain and prescribed. Ramadan was not suggested. It was written into the architecture of the believer's year. There is also the matter of immunity. Dr. Valter Longo at the University of Southern California's Longevity Institute has spent decades studying what happens to the immune system during extended fasting. His findings, published in the journal Cell in 2014, showed that fasting cycles can literally regenerate the immune system. Old, damaged immune cells are broken down through autophagy, and new ones are generated from stem cells. The immune system, after fasting, is functionally newer than it was before. Longo described this finding publicly as remarkable, a scientist's rare concession to wonder. The body does not degrade when it stops eating. Under the right conditions, it rebuilds itself. The Prophet letter FDFA once said, as narrated in Sahih al-Bukhari, "We are a people who do not eat until we are hungry, and when we eat, we do not eat to fullness." This is not merely a dietary preference. It is a description of a relationship with food that modern metabolic research now recognizes as optimal for longevity. Dr. Luigi Fontana at Washington University, in St. Louis has published extensive research showing that moderate caloric restriction, eating consistently below maximum capacity, produces measurable improvements in insulin sensitivity, lower chronic inflammation markers, and reduced cardiovascular risk. The Prophet letter FDFA described this not as a temporary protocol, but as a permanent orientation toward food. He ate simply. He ate slowly. He ate with others. He stopped before fullness. The Prophet letter FDFA also prescribed specific foods that modern nutritional science has since validated one by one. Dates, with which he broke his fast, are rich in natural sugars, potassium, magnesium, and dietary fiber, an ideal combination for rapidly stabilizing blood glucose after a long fast without triggering a sharp insulin spike. Olive oil, which he recommended for both consumption and topical use, contains olecanthal, a phenolic compound that researchers at the Monal Chemical Senses Center in Philadelphia documented in 2005 to have anti-inflammatory effects comparable to low-dose ibuprofen. And then there is the black seed, Nigella sativa, about which the Prophet said, as recorded in Sahih Bukhari, "In the black seed is healing for every disease except death." Thymoquinone, the active compound in Nigella sativa, has been studied extensively. Research published in the journal Phytotherapy Research has documented its antifungal, antibacterial, and anti-inflammatory properties. The line from the Hadith to the biochemistry lab is direct. There is a concept in Islamic jurisprudence called maqasid al-Shariah, the higher objectives of Islamic law. Classical scholars, including Imam al-Ghazali in the 11th century and the Tunisian jurist Ibn Ashur in the 20th, identified the things that Sharia exists to protect. Among them, the intellect, and the body. Al-Badan, the physical form, is not incidental to faith. It is one of the things Islam was sent to preserve. Understanding this reframes every dietary guideline, every prayer posture, every fasting practice of the Sunnah. These are not arbitrary rituals layered over a spiritual framework. They are the architecture of a life designed for flourishing, issued by the one who created the body and knew what it needed before the body's own cells could tell us. Multiple observational studies examining health outcomes in Muslim communities during Ramadan have found consistent patterns across diverse populations. Improved cholesterol profiles, reduced blood pressure, and decreased markers of systemic inflammation in participants who observe the fast fully. Researchers have noted carefully that the spiritual dimension of Ramadan, the community, the prayer, the orientation of the entire day toward God, likely contributes to outcomes that caloric restriction alone does not explain. The science measures the body. The body responds to something the science has not yet learned to measure. This is the part that pure biology cannot reach. The human being is not a machine that simply runs better when maintained correctly. As the Quran says in Surah Al-Hayya, verse 29, the human form was breathed into by the divine, and when I have fashioned him and breathed into him of my spirit, fall down before him in prostration. There is a dimension to us that responds to fasting not only by rebuilding its cells, but by awakening something that neuroscience has only recently begun to approach and has not yet found the vocabulary to fully describe. The heightened clarity of mind and heart that believers experience in the last 10 days of Ramadan, as Laylat al-Qadr approaches, is not mysticism disconnected from biology. It is what happens when the body is in its optimal fasting state. The brain is flooded with BDNF, and the soul is oriented toward its creator in unbroken remembrance. The Nobel Prize Committee in Stockholm gave Yoshinori Ohsumi his award without mentioning Islam. The researchers at the National Institute on Aging and the University of Southern California published their papers without citing the Hadith. They did not need to. The truth does not require acknowledgement to remain true. What the Prophet FDFA practiced, what Allah FDFB prescribed 14 centuries ago, and what billions of Muslims have faithfully observed is now being confirmed, mechanism by mechanism, in peer-reviewed journals. The body already knew, the revelation already told us. Science, at last, is catching up. Subscribe to Faith, Decoded for more insights, where ancient wisdom meets modern understanding.